And we'll set a timer for 30 minutes. Okay, so Finamp, I believe, is a Flutter app. It's 98.6% Dart. And it also has some iOS stuff. There might be some Android specific stuff, but I'm guessing usually most of the interesting stuff might be in the lib directory, which is the stuff that's cross-platform. So in the Android app folder, we have source, main, and amp. We just have the main activity. This might be auto-generated. In fact, it probably is. And so we have the lib directory. We have components. I don't know what components is. I10N is probably internationalization, models, screens, and services. And then we have color schemes. Main.dart might be interesting. So models, I'm guessing, are the data models, like model view controller style. Services are presumably things that are going to run in the background. Maybe also access to the network. Screens might be the same as UI. Let's see if we can eliminate screens. So we have add download location screen.dart. Add to playlist screen, album screen, logs screen, music screen. How about we just pick one at random, music screen. Extends stateful widget. Okay, so it's a stateful widget, and it's got some state. And the state is what? We keep track of is searching, but that's not private. We have the whether to show the shuffle floating action button, which is false by default. We have some text editing controller. A search query, which is a nullable string. I'm not sure that all of this stuff belongs in the music screen state, because you're going to have to, anytime any one of these things changes, you're going to have to rebuild, right? Is that what we want? Maybe it is. So if we change the search query, do we have to necessarily change the music screen? I guess if the music screen is if the music screen is showing the results of the search query, like if we want to find all songs that begin with the letter T, then I guess we do want to update it when. But maybe we only want to update the list thing, whatever that's called, the part that looks like a spreadsheet. We also have a tab controller. I don't know what that's doing, and an audio service helper. We're using getIt, which I think is just some service locator thing. Flutter getIt. GetIt is a package that allows you to access objects from anywhere in your app without depending on widgets or context. They describe this other thing describes it as a dependency injection. I think seems like it's just basically a wrapper around globals. At any rate, we have a bunch of services: Finamp, user helper, Jellyfin, API helper. We have this stop searching thing, which is going to set state. We're going to clear the text editing controller. Put the search query to nil, set is searching to false. Then we have this tab index callback. And it's got this Finamp settings helper. The Finamp settings show tabs.entries. .where element is element.value. An element at tab controller bang index. I guess the bang, I think in Dart also means non-null .key. What is that doing? So there's some element. And I guess the element is passed as an argument to this where function. And where's value used, or I don't know. we're getting some element and getting its index. I don't know where index comes from. And it seems like we're ultimately getting the key. And if the tab controller is non-null and some other stuff is true, then we're going to set state, set shuffle FAB to true. This is, okay, so the tab controller is non-null and the tab key is songs, artists, or albums. Okay, so this is trying to decide whether to show you the shuffle button. And I guess it's only showing you the shuffle button if we're looking at the songs, artists, or albums tab. See if you can pull up a screenshot. So that's some screenshot. Yeah, okay. So I'm looking at it on my device. So the music, let's see if I can find the music page. Finamp. It might be possible to find it in the UI files, but that might not be the best. This, I think, is basically what we're looking at. We've got albums, artists, playlists, and genres. And so I guess you can't, where's the code again? So if it's songs, artists, or albums, then we show the floating action button, which seems inconsistent with this image because there is no floating action button to shuffle. And what are the other options? Songs, artists, and albums. The songs, I think, is just cut off, but we can't, I guess, randomly shuffle genres, is what this is maybe telling us. And the tab keys, what we got here, we're looking at the settings helper. I still don't feel like I understand what's going on here. So Finamp settings show tabs.entries. Where element is element. So I guess this just means we're for each of these entries, we're getting the value and maybe this is checking whether the tab controller index is equal to this element, I guess is maybe what this is saying. And then if that's true, then we'll get the key. Something along those lines. And if the tab controller is null, then we won't show the shuffle button. And then we've got this void build tab controller, which will remove some listener, the tab index callback, and we'll set the tab controller to tab controller of some stuff. And whatever vsync is set to this. I'm not sure what vsync is. Vertical sync? I don't know. And then we have this init state, which is, we're on the music screen. And we're going to call super, which we have to do. And we're going to call build tab controller, which was here. And then we implement dispose, and we'll dispose the tab controller if we need to. And we may, so here's a function to get the floating action button. And it's going to give you a list of tabs, I guess. This somehow grabs a list of tabs. Show the floating action button only on the albums, artists, and songs tab, which I thought we did above. But this is doing what? We're returning a floating action button object. And we might display an error in the snack bar. And I guess this is also maybe on the floating action button. We have this on pressed implementation. And we're going to await for the audio service helper. This is some async method. So we can await it. And we're going to call shuffle all on Finamp settings is favorite. If the tab controller index is the index of song. And we have this child icon is this is just saying that the floating action button icon is the shuffle icon. Why are we, it seems like we're only shuffling the favorites. Is that right? And then if we are on the artist tab, then we're going to get this Jellyfin API helper selected mix artists IDs. Mix artist IDs. If this is empty, then we have some error. I guess it will show for the snack bar. Otherwise, we're going to call start instant mix for artists. And that's maybe a Jellyfin API call. Look up instant mix. I try to use radio style sorting when listening to music because I tend to grab a lot of music. I blah, blah, blah. I don't know. And as I learn it, start radios from there. Instant mix would be great. I just don't understand how it runs. I use instant mix on Iron Maiden. I get a list with Beck, the Eels, Megadeth, Avenged Sevenfold, and the Decemberists. Hey, suggest the algorithm you want. Remember, being a computer, it only knows what it tells you. But you tell it, rather. Okay. I don't know what instant mix is based on. Apparently, Beck. Megadeth and Beck. Or something. Whatever it just said. Okay, so this is something, I think this probably does not run on the phone. Although this is... it's passing in the selected mix artists IDs. Add artist to mix builder list. Okay. Let's look up start. What is it? Start. I mean, it really has to be some sort of API call unless your client. So you're going to be streaming this from, let's just say you have like a network attached storage, a NAS. You're going to be streaming it from the NAS. So that the NAS, it probably is in a better position to compute which songs it thinks you want to hear. The other implementation is for the phone to compute it, and each time the song one song ends, like request the next song or something along those lines. This is audio service helper. Start instant mix. Base item DTO. I don't know what DTO is. And then we've got this Jellyfin API helper get instant mix of item. Okay. So this does seem to be what we call replace queue with item. Okay, so it does seem to be calling the Jellyfin API. And what? And that's basically it for that thing. And then we have this build for the music screen rather. So we have this build. We have to implement build for a stateful widget. This is not the stateful widget. This is the state of the stateful widget. And we're going to return value listenable builder of box of Finamp user. I don't know what box is. Not Jellyfin, but Flutter. So maybe it's just a box, like a UI box. And we have this Finamp user thing here. A Finamp user adapter. Finamp user has an ID, a base URL, access token, server ID, current view ID, and views. This is some generated code. Type adapter generator. I don't know what .g.dart is. This file contains classes returned by Jellyfin. Some values may not be exactly right. Okay, so I guess we're returned maybe by Jellyfin. The service, this is Finamp, the Android app. And whatever Hive is. I think it's maybe a Java thing. Oh, it's not. Before you start, consider using ISAR, a Flutter database by the author of Hive that is superior in every way. Okay, so boxes might be a Hive thing. But what is it? What is it? What is it? It seems to be some sort of database thing. A lightweight and blazing fast key value database written in pure Dart, inspired by Bitcask. So it's some key value database. What are boxes? All data stored in Hive is organized in boxes. A box can be compared to a table in SQL, but it doesn't have the structure or contain anything. Okay. What is a DTO? Something object. DTO class. Ditch the monolithic data class. Embrace DTOs. Data something object. Let's highlight all of the DTOs. The monolith's demise. Data transfer object. These slender and focused fellas handle data exclusively for API communication. They're the translators between your app and the external world, mapping incoming and outgoing data without a single domain logic hiccup. See if there's a Wikipedia entry on here. All right, so we'll read that later. I added it to Wallabag. You can't see that because I did it, or maybe I didn't do it. There we go. Wallabag. And I will use the Wallabag Android app to read it later. Okay, so this is some data transfer object. There's, I assume that what it's up to is there's some mismatch between how Dart, essentially some struct that is modeled in Dart, and then Jellyfin, I think, is probably written in C Sharp, if I remember correctly. And so it has some model. Maybe they communicate on the wire or via JSON. I don't know how it works, but there has to be some moving around of fields and stuff to get all of this stuff right. And we are defining all these Hive fields and the JSON serializable, et cetera, et cetera. So these are going to be serialized to JSON, probably stored to disk in some Hive key value format that's optimized. And then this box thing that we saw is probably just saying that the music page is using the Finamp user box. And we have this users listenable. I'm not sure what that's up to, but something about audio and listening. Unless it's just listening in the code sense. And then we have this, well, so the value listenable builder has a value listenable and a builder. This is a pattern that we saw on Twitch, I guess yesterday, with future builder and probably also stream builder. I don't know what value listenable builder is. I don't know if that's part of Flutter or part of some library. Value listenable builder, a widget. whose content stays synced with a value listenable. It's an interface for subclasses of listenable that expose a value. And listenable is an object that maintains a list of listeners. Okay, so I guess this is some this listenable Finamp users listenable, I guess, maintains a list of listeners. So essentially all people subscribed to something. What thing? Probably stuff about Finamp users. So this is, I think, conceptually related to what we've seen in the other Android apps. We saw that I think it was Wallabag was using an event bus made by the green people whose name I kind of forget. We saw that I think Enki was using the what seemed to be the async capabilities of Kotlin to have a notification style message bus sort of thing. I think that probably this is similar. Listeners are essentially things that are subscribed to a certain kind of information. And it's kind of like a message bus. And so this is just sort of really a wrapper around that. And then one of the things that's wrapped is another value listenable builder. This time from the Finamp settings box. And that also has a builder. And that builder is maybe going to do some work. We're going to get the Finamp settings value. And that'll be some final Finamp setting thing. We'll get the tabs from the user's tab order. So maybe you can reorder the tabs. And we have some logger. The logger might say that we're rebuilding the music screen tab controller, and we'll call build tab controller. Then we have this will pop scope. Maybe pop some sort of scope off a stack. So on will pop is async. And if we are searching, we'll stop searching and return false. Otherwise, we'll return true. And child of what? Maybe child of will pop scope is a scaffold with an app bar. This is maybe like in classic Android, like transitioning to a new intent. This seems to be like another layer, another like app level thing. We've got a new bar at the top. We've got a new scaffold. And the title is searching with some text field. And something about localizations. And the bottom is a tab bar. And it's set to is scrollable true. And then leading is searching. Actions is, yeah. I don't know what any of this is. I guess something that happens when you start searching. Maybe the UI changes. I can see if I can. I have this on my phone. Let me see if I can try to search for something. I don't know. The UI doesn't seem to change fundamentally, but. And then we have some tab bar. The body is tab bar view with the tab controller, and the children are the tabs. And for each of the tabs, we're going to map this music screen tab view is like a wrapper around, I guess, the standard tab view. And the sort order, we're going to look in the Finamp settings to figure out what the sort order is. Okay, so that's the music screen. This is actually, as somebody who's a total novice at Flutter, this is actually doing a lot more work for a single widget than I would have expected. I wonder if the app would be more responsive if this were maybe refactored to cut up and separate things as much as possible. But that may be at odds with using some of these libraries like this Hive stuff and like some of the get it state management stuff. It seems like those libraries are often about passing state around. And so you may have to you have to figure out how to pass state around without it interfering too much with like your widget layout. And so I think that's maybe the tension of a framework like Flutter. But in truth, I don't really know. So that was the audio screen. In components, sorry, music screen rather. I guess were we just in components? We're in screens. So let's look at music screen component. Why not? So we have okay. So these are like things that go on the screen, like an album item card has a key, an item, a parent type, what happens when you tap it, and whether to add a settings listener. As some base item. And when you build it, we're going to return a card with some margin and a clip R rect, maybe rounded rectangle, and some more listener stuff. Presumably, we're going to pull an image of the album from somewhere, and so on and so forth. Okay, where are we in time? We have 3 minutes left. Let's see if there's anything else. We saw a little bit, there's an API wrapper for calling the Jellyfin server. Here's services, album image provider, censored log. I'm glad to see the log is censored. There's a lot of stuff I see doesn't censor private information from logs. Here's the Jellyfin API.dart, API helper, locale helper, music player background task, media state stream, process artist, sync helper. Let's look at music player background task. Largely copied from Just Audio's default shuffle order. There's some Finamp shuffle order, which has random stuff in a list of indices, and it's going to shuffle stuff. Indices.shuffle random. Some stuff about swapping position, etc. Then I guess we're going to take the index. This is about inserting indices, etc., etc. That's fine. That's not what I came to look for. A music background player task extends base audio handler. I don't know if that's a Flutter thing. Base audio handler class. Base class for implementations of audio handler. It provides default implementations of all methods and streams. Okay, so this is, I think, Flutter support for audio that is being used by Finamp. So we get the audio player, passing in some configuration, like buffer duration. We have this Darwin load control, which is, I think Darwin is an Android thing, right? And then we have some Q audio source, which we're getting by concatenating audio source with no children in some shuffle order. It seems like maybe we populated shuffle order ahead of time, that when we ask to shuffle, we're just shuffling essentially in a pre-shuffled order. This is logging stuff. We're getting some service getting through get it. And LC is telling me about DTOs. Mainly exposed as objects, things that come either from the database storage. They are mainly inert. Cool. Basically plain composite associative data objects written as plain maps or classes. Cool. Thanks. They're like Pocos. Is Pocos for C? I don't think I've heard of Pocos. All right. Is stopping. So this is all, I guess all of the hard audio stuff is mainly implemented by the Flutter audio thingamajiggy. And then we have this music player background task constructor, it looks like. Propagate all events from the audio player to audio service clients. So we're calling player playback event stream dot listen to an event. So I guess we're listening to the playback event stream, and we're getting some things like the previous state, etc. And we'll add the current state, and if it's non-null, then we'll get Q item at current index. I don't know what the Q is in this case. Differences in Q order or item ID are considered track changes. Okay, so we might have changed tracks and what? If we're done here, we update playback progress. And this is some just conditional about whether we have a playback state or etc. It says we're propagating stuff, propagate all events from the audio player to the audio service clients. But where are we sending, where are we propagating information? Maybe by calling onTrackChanged? Maybe just by recording them here and adding them to playback state? I don't know. And then just more stuff. When we call play, it returns a future void. If a sleep timer has been set and the timer went off, causing play to pause, if the user starts to play audio again, and the sleep timer hasn't been explicitly turned off, then reset the sleep timer. This is useful if the sleep timer pauses play too early and the user wants to continue listening. If the sleep timer is set and its value is null, restart it for another period. I don't know what this sleep timer is about. I don't know who sets it. Maybe you can ask it this only play for like an hour or whatever. Maybe it's something user facing. I don't know. And then we have stop. Seek to the start of the first item in the queue. So I guess when you stop, then it's going to go to the beginning of the song. I guess that's good. You don't want that necessarily for videos, but for songs, it seems to be what you want. And some stuff about managing queues. We are over time, and I'm going to stop looking at Finamp here, and I'm going to move on to the next one. POCOs are the C# equivalent. I see. Or were.